clings to you, a cold and silent embrace. Through the haze, indistinct shapes loom, the skeletal frames of tents striped in faded reds and yellows, tall poles strung with limp, sodden banners, and lanterns that swing with a ghostly rhythm in the chill air. The world smells of wet canvas, old sawdust, and a faint metallic tang you can't quite place. This is no ordinary carnival. This is a place veiled in secrets. The air is thick with a strange energy, a blend of anticipation and profound unease. The fog muffles every sound, twisting distant laughter and the tinny jangle of a calliope into hollow echoes. An ornate archway materializes from the mist, its lettering barely readable, Carnivale Obscura. On either side, attendants in threadbare uniforms stand like statues, their faces hidden by masks, their eyes watching you with a chilling mix of curiosity and calculation. Fog, that ancient veil between worlds, serves its purpose here, concealing the carnival's truths and keeping the mundane world at bay. The attractions seem to float in a liminal space, half seen and half imagined, luring you deeper with every hesitant step. Your senses sharpen in the gloom. A sudden burst of color slices through the gray as a juggler tosses flaming torches, their glow smudged and ethereal. From a tent shrouded in shadow, a fortune-teller's low, rhythmic chant mingles with the chiming of wind bells. You notice a faded poster plastered to a pole. Tonight only, the great Mirabilis and his cabinet of curiosities. The edges of the paper curl, damp and ancient, as if it has been waiting for you for a very long time. Every carnival has its rhythm, but this one's heart beats to a different drum. The usual cheer is replaced by a subtle, humming tension. The fog itself seems alive, swirling in patterns that defy the wind. Performers move through the mist like phantoms, their faces painted in somber hues, their laughter low and knowing, as if they share a secret too terrible to expose in the thin morning light. Even the games of chance feel imbued with a sense of genuine risk. Prizes glint on crooked shelves, a music box that plays its tune backwards, a doll whose eyes seem to follow you as you pass. There is an unspoken invitation everywhere. Come closer, look deeper, but beware of what you find. The fog lingers, a persistent guardian of this place, as if reluctant to reveal too much at once. It is a perfect stage for transformation, for the ordinary to become extraordinary. And as you stand at the threshold, drawn toward the cabinet of curiosities, you can't help but wonder what waits for you in the mist, just out of sight. You step through the creaking doors of a dimly lit gallery, the air heavy with the scent of turpentine and linseed oil. Here, amidst splattered canvases and half-finished portraits, we find the world of the painter, once celebrated for his brilliance, now remembered for the shadows that consumed him. It is in this twilight world that a story of descent begins, as genius collides with obsession and reality blurs into nightmare. As the painter's fame grew, so did the pressure to create. But with each brushstroke, whispers of doubt crept in. Friends recalled how he became increasingly withdrawn, shunning sunlight in favor of long, feverish nights before the easel. Neighbors spoke of catching glimpses through his window, the artist wild-eyed, muttering to unseen figures lurking in the corners of the room. The haunted echoes in this tale are not merely metaphorical. In letters discovered after his death, he described hearing voices, faint at first, then insistent, demanding. He claimed the faces he painted would shift and change when he wasn't looking, their eyes following him around the studio. In one particularly chilling entry, the painter wrote, "They watch me, even as I sleep. Their lips do not move, but their silence screams." Art historians speculate these hallucinations were symptoms of a deepening madness, perhaps exacerbated by isolation and the toxic chemicals in his own tools, lead whites, mercury-based vermilion, and the arsenic-laced emerald green favored in his palette. In the 19th century, it was not uncommon for artists to suffer from their craft. their minds slowly unraveling under the influence of their own creations. The descent was a slow, creeping corruption. The painter's early works are filled with light and hope, sun-dappled gardens and joyous gatherings. But as the years passed, a darkness bled onto the canvas. Figures in his later paintings appear distorted, their expressions twisted in anguish. Shadows lengthen unnaturally, and backgrounds dissolve into swirling, chaotic forms, as if the world itself were collapsing. Critics of his time dismissed these changes as eccentricity, but modern eyes recognize the signs of a soul in torment. And it is here, in this gallery, that you can see it for yourself. Visitors often report a strange sense of unease, an unsettling feeling that these are not just paintings, but windows into a mind besieged by ghosts, both personal and supernatural. And among these tormented works, a special collection hangs in the deepest shadows, where the candlelight flickers and the floorboards creak with every breath you take. Here hang the infamous bleeding portraits, paintings so steeped in legend and fear that they have become the centerpiece of ghost stories across the globe. These are artworks that, according to chilling tales, appear to ooze blood, tears, or other mysterious fluids. The phenomenon has been reported for centuries, in remote castles and old manors, each tale more spine-tingling than the last. One of the most notorious examples comes from Naples, Italy, where the portrait of Maria d'Avalos, a noblewoman murdered in the 16th century, is said to weep crimson tears each year on the anniversary of her death. Locals claim the phenomenon has been witnessed for generations, the blood-like substance trickling down the canvas to pool on its ornate frame. Scientific investigations have failed to find a rational explanation, fueling the superstition that Maria's restless spirit is reaching out through the paint. Across the ocean, at the Myrtles Plantation in Louisiana, often called one of America's most haunted homes, a faded portrait of a former resident, Chloe, has been linked through reports of red streaks appearing beneath her painted eyes. Visitors have described the unsettling sensation of cold air and the strong metallic scent of iron whenever the stains emerge. Skeptics argue it's simply humidity interacting with old pigments, but no definitive cause has ever been found. And in Japan, the legend of the blood portrait of Oiwa tells of a painting that drips blood whenever her tragic story is retold. Oiwa, betrayed and murdered, is said to haunt her likeness, her suffering immortalized not just in art, but in the physical world, a chilling reminder of vengeance and loss. Are these stories merely products of overactive imaginations? Art historians note that certain pigments, particularly those containing iron oxide, can break down over time, releasing reddish fluids. Environmental factors can cause paintings to weep. And yet the legends persist, perhaps because the idea of a portrait coming to life, literally bleeding before our eyes, touches on our deepest fears about mortality, guilt, and the unknown. As you stand in this gallery of horror, you realize every portrait has two stories. One is painted in oils, the other in whispers and shivers. This crimson seeping from the canvas begs a deeper question. What if the horror isn't in the paint, but in the blood itself? The concept of the monster within has fascinated and terrified us for centuries, blurring the line between human and beast, not in myth, but in the very fluid that courses through our veins. Blood has always represented life, power, and transformation. In Bram Stoker's Dracula, the act of drinking blood is more than survival. It is a corruption, a conversion. The victim's blood becomes the medium through which the monster spreads, turning ordinary people into creatures of the night. The fear is not of the creature outside the window, but of the transformation that could occur within us. In medical history, the monster within sometimes took on literal meaning. The rare blood disorder porphyria, with symptoms like sensitivity to sunlight and discolored teeth, led some to believe that sufferers were vampires or werewolves. Here, science and superstition collided, and the monstrous became a metaphor for misunderstood illness. The crimson revelations of such conditions forced society to confront an uncomfortable truth. Sometimes, the real monsters are born from our own ignorance and fear.
Modern storytelling uses this motif to explore our deepest psychologies. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is the ultimate battle between civility and savagery, both sides fueled by the same red blood. Jekyll's transformation is triggered by his own hand, suggesting the capacity for monstrosity exists in all of us. This idea continues to evolve. Whether it's a supernatural infection or a zombie virus, the crimson thread of contamination connects our fears to the loss of control over our own bodies and minds. These stories force us to ask, what would we do if faced with our own monstrous natures? Would we resist, or would we give in? The monster within is a call to confront our inner demons, anger, guilt, trauma. The revelations that come from facing these monsters can be redemptive.
The Crimson Revelations, then, are not only about terror, but about the possibility of healing. They remind us that darkness and light are intertwined, and the true battle is often fought beneath the surface, in the crimson depths of our own souls. And so we return to the artist, poised before the canvas, brush in hand. A single stroke could mean the difference between harmony and chaos. This final moment is more than the culmination of his work. It is a confrontation with the boundaries of sanity itself. The archetype of the mad artist has haunted our imagination, blurring the line between genius and madness. But what is it about the creative process that pushes the mind to its very edge? Creating something original requires a withdrawal from the ordinary world, a descent into a realm where reality and imagination merge. The artist's mind becomes a battleground. Vincent van Gogh wrote about the terrible clarity painting brought him, moments of euphoria punctuated by crippling despair. Painting was both his lifeline and his torment, a way of holding on to sanity even as it slipped from his grasp. This struggle is not unique. Artists often enter intense periods of focus where time loses meaning. While exhilarating, the return to ordinary life can feel jarring, alienating. Edvard Munch, whose painting The Scream became an icon of existential anxiety, once wrote, "I felt a great scream passed through nature." For Munch, art was a means of coping, but the act of creation also exposed raw nerves that never quite healed. Modern science offers a glimpse into this storm, finding that the creative mind often walks a razor's edge, more vulnerable to mood disorders. The very traits that fuel artistic vision, intensity, sensitivity, unconventional thinking, can also precipitate psychological turmoil. But for many, art is also a powerful tool for healing. The act of putting brush to canvas can externalize inner chaos, transforming private pain into a shared experience. Frida Kahlo, who endured lifelong suffering, famously painted her own reality. Her self-portraits are not just records of agony, but acts of defiance, a way of asserting control over a fractured world. Ultimately, the final brushstroke is a reckoning, a moment when the artist must decide what to reveal and what to conceal. This choice exposes their vulnerability, their humanity, and their sanity. In that final, trembling gesture, we see not only the cost of creation, but the enduring hope that art can somehow make sense of madness. But what happens when the final brushstroke isn't an end, but a question? What happens when the lights dim, but the story refuses to conclude? This is the eternal curtain call, the haunting cliffhanger that reverberates long after the credits roll, leaving us forever haunted by what was left unsaid. Think of the iconic stories that have embraced this ambiguity. In The Sopranos finale, the screen cuts to black, leaving a question that sparked debates for years. In Inception, a spinning top teeters between reality and dream, leaving viewers perched on the edge of possibility. These endings don't just stop the story, they invite us to participate, to write our own conclusions. Psychologists suggest this pull is rooted in our need for cognitive closure. When a narrative ends with ambiguity, it creates a psychological itch, an urge to find resolution that feels both frustrating and exhilarating. It turns a simple story into a puzzle we carry with us. On the stage, the eternal curtain call can take many forms. In Shakespeare's Hamlet, the ghost's final silence leaves us wondering. In plays like Waiting for Godot, the curtain falls, but the questions echo. What happens next? Was it all for nothing? This haunting cliffhanger serves a deeper purpose. It keeps the spirit of the story alive, ensuring the narrative never truly ends. It invites us to return, to reflect, to imagine. The eternal curtain call isn't just about what we see or hear in those final moments. It's about the lasting impact, the stories we continue to tell ourselves, and the mysteries that refuse to be solved. The curtain may fall, but the story's shadow lingers on, forever haunting the stage of our imagination.